Okay, so short while ago, not sure what the upload schedule is going to be, but a short while ago I did a top 10 villains video. I don't think I need to explain what that video was. I think the title's pretty self-explanatory. So I thought, why not do essentially a sort of follow-up to that video? Yeah, basically I came up with 5 villains I'd like to see come back in Doctor Who sometime. This is basically 5 villains from the classic series that are yet to be brought back in the modern era that I'd really like to see, brought back in the modern era. There's more than 5 villains that I'd like to see come back, but I decided to just narrow it down to 5 for this video for the sake of it not becoming 2 hours long. Number 5, we have the Axons from John Pertwee's The Claws of Axos. I always found this to be a pretty interesting villain from a pretty good little story as well. The big red lumbering tentacle monster people that disguise as those rather skinny yellow gold people, basically. I'm good at summarising. No, I'm not. I like the whole idea of it being one organism, basically. The Axons themselves, the living spaceship, and the Axonites, the substance that they give to humans to sort of trick them into like the Alliance or whatever it is they're doing. You know, all of that basically being one conscious entity, essentially. The Axons probably aren't the only Doctor Who villains to have done something like this, but you know, I just really like them in general. I think you can make them look pretty cool with like modern day effects and everything as well, and I think there's still room for them to crop up again at some point. Or maybe there isn't, and it's just me being a bit of a fanboy for the story that they're in. Probably the latter, to be honest, but it's my list and I don't have to justify myself. Fuck it, the Axons are on the list anyway. Number 4, I'm going to put the Sea Devils, another John Pertwee villain. Well, John Pertwee and Peter Davison, but we don't really like to talk about Warriors of the Deep, do we, in this fandom? With the Silurians being brought back now for over a decade, albeit with a crappy redesign, I'm not the biggest fan of the modern Silurian design, to be honest. I much prefer the classic design. The Silurians have been brought back and they've appeared numerous times in New Who now, albeit they've only actually had one proper story where they were like the centre of the episode and the villain. It's the same case with the Sontarans as well. I wish they'd stop bringing back all these classic villains into the modern series, giving them one episode and then just having them be like either comic relief or just like random side characters that aren't actually the centre of the episode like they should be. I wish they'd stop doing that in New Who, it's kind of annoying. But yeah, anyway, Sea Devils. It's about time they were brought back as well. The cousins, essentially, of the Silurians. I feel like there was room for them to have come back in Series 12's Praxeus as well, given how that was to do with like stuff in the ocean and everything. But no, it ended up being Praxeus, which I'm not complaining about. I did like Praxeus. I thought it was an interesting, different direction to take a Doctor Who episode in, but that's a whole another video. And I already talked about it over a year ago. So yeah, I'm sure there's been a couple of opportunities in the modern era where we could have had Sea Devils, but they just haven't cropped up for some reason, and I'd really like them to come back sometime. And I'm not alone in that. I think the Sea Devils are one of the biggest villains that's like most wanted to return by the fandom as well, so come on guys, let's start some kind of petition and send it off to the BBC. Bring back the Sea Devils within the next 3 series or we riot. Okay, number 3, I'm going to put the Cronoids on here. I put the Cronoids on my top 10 villains list a couple of videos back, or whenever it was as well. In my top 10 villains video, I talked about how like ruthless they were and just how good of a villain they were, and I think they should bring them back, you know. Maybe not for an Earth story, because we've done that already, but perhaps, well, I don't know really. I mean, nothing really comes to mind at the moment, but surely there's like a lot of potential that you could have with a Cronoid story. There's got to be some more stuff that you can do with them, you know. I'm sure there is. So you could probably do some pretty horrifying stuff with the modern effects as well. I mean, not like the Seeds of Doom's 1970s effects were not horrifying and like up to par, but Seeds of Doom was pretty damn ahead of its time if you ask me, the entire story in general. But like, just think about what they could do with the modern effects nowadays with the Cronoid creatures. Like, whoa, bringing back the Cronoids. Number 2, the Guardians, a big villain from mainly the 5th Doctor's era of the Black Guardian trilogy, but they did first appear in Tom Baker's era in season 16. The Guardians I don't think were ever really fully explored to their full potential, unfortunately, in the classic series, so it would be great to see them come back. If you really explore the Guardians' full potential, I think they could be like the big series finale villain. I think they qualify for that position, you know. There's some like real like mystical, Lovecraftian-esque stuff that you could do with them as beings in this universe. You know, it would be good to bring them into a modern episode sometime, perhaps as part of like an overarching story for a series, or just as, like I said, series finale antagonists. The Guardians really are a high-stakes villain in the Whoniverse. I mean, some of them are villains, some of them are good guys, just the whole Guardian thing in general, you know? So yeah, there's potential with them for like a high-stakes story, and I think it's a shame they've not been brought back yet, but here's hoping in the future we will see them again. And number 1, it's going to be the Mara. I love the Mara. It was in my top 10 villains video. They're still one of my all-time favourite villains in the classic series. If they brought them back now, you could do like a proper psychological horror story with them, you know, because that's like the Mara's thing, you know, taking over people's minds and just fucking with them. There's brilliant potential for a psychological story there, like a horror story of sorts, like on par with like Midnight or Listen. And if they had to do any sort of focus on the snake form of this creature itself, then they could easily pull that off with the modern effects. I mean, just look at Colony Sarf from Series 9. They've already done Giant Snake Monster, which I'm kind of disappointed Colony Sarf? I'm kind of disappointed Colony Sarf wasn't actually the Mara, to be honest, but, you know, they've done that, so they could do the big CGI snake, and yeah, there's really no wrong way to do the Mara with modern techniques, so bring it back, come on, there's potential there. It would be amazing, and I would love whoever did it forever, basically. Anyway, that was 5 villains that I'd like to see return in Doctor Who sometime. I'm going to try and wrap this up really quick before my camera dies. If there's any villains that you'd like to see come back in the modern era that haven't yet, then comment them below. I might do a part 2 to this sometime in the future, because there are definitely more villains that I'd like to see return. And yeah, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be back soon with another video, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see. And yeah, bye for now, Whovians!